What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast, a podcast focused on young entrepreneurs trying to improve both their businesses as well as their lifestyles. In today's episode, I'm going to be bringing on my new friend, Jeremy. Jeremy is a dynamic and accomplished two-time best-selling author and entrepreneur that has carved a niche as a renowned digital marketing consultant and an inspiring keynote speaker. With a deep-seated passion for empowering individuals and organizations, Jeremy has dedicated his career to helping people maximize their talent and purpose. His personal story of life transformation, combined with his engaging speaking style, makes him a sought-after expert in the industry. Jeremy's profound insights and strategies have inspired countless individuals to unlock their full potential and align their careers with their true purpose. Guys, in today's episode, Jeremy's going to be giving us some marketing strategies for our businesses, as well as helping us guide through the entire process of learning what it means to stay consistent in your business. And he will share metaphors of that with his books and everything else he has done inside of his business and his entrepreneurial journey. So guys, with that all being said, let's welcome Jeremy to the show and we'll jump into today's episode. Jeremy, thanks for having us, man.
Brandon, thanks for having me on. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Tell us where you're calling in from and a little bit more about yourself. We heard like the picturesque LinkedIn version of yourself, but tell us your likes, your dislikes.
No, I'm like, who wrote that? It's so good. It makes me feel like I am somebody in the world. No, I'm actually in Atlanta. Well, I'm in Decatur, which is right next to Atlanta, but most people know Atlanta, so I'm in Atlanta. What was the other question?
Yeah, tell us. So if you're in Atlanta, are you a Braves fan? You a big baseball guy?
You know, I'm originally from Oklahoma, but I've been in Atlanta for over 20 years. So I'm a big Oklahoma Sooners fan. Hence, you can probably see some jerseys in the background. So in Atlanta, I go for the home team. I go for the Hawks. I go for the Falcons. I go for whoever any Atlanta team is playing. I do go for the home team now. But am I a fan? You know, not necessarily. Yeah.
Good stuff. I'm a big baseball guy myself, big Dodger fan. And so now it feels like the two powerhouses, the Braves, the Dodgers, so that it feels like they're always getting compared against each other. So no disrespect for the team, amazing team, but
it's all good. Yeah.
I always got to root for the Dodgers though, you know?
Yeah. I like the Dodgers. I was an Oral Hershiser fan back in the days. So, I respect the Dodgers.
Oklahoma. If you're from Oklahoma, I don't know what part you're from, but we got our minor league team out there as well. So I don't know if you ever caught any minor league games or anything. But
was that the 89ers or the Red Hawks? One of those two?
Wait.
Yeah, that was in Oklahoma City, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
That one does not ring a bell.
No worries, man. Well, good stuff. Yeah. Let's jump into the bulk of the conversation here. You're an entrepreneur. You're a best-selling author. Tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey and share some insights on that.
Yeah, I think my entrepreneurial journey is similar to probably many in that you work a 9 to 5 and either you lose a job or you're like, I want to do something different, but I'm kind of tagged with other responsibilities like bills and family and things like that. But you keep plugging away. So that's the high level. For me personally, I had a passion for music. I had a passion for marketing. And so I started, my first business was actually a music production company. And I started that up here in Atlanta when I worked for another job, a telecom company, and kind of working that full time on the side until I could run it full time, which I was given the luxury of because they laid off everybody that was in the building that I worked at. So I was like, hey, it's time to run this full time. And that particular journey, my target audience, my customers were a bunch of independent musicians, which sounds very awesome and amazing because you're around a bunch of creative people. But it ended up not being that way for me because being an independent musician, nobody has any money. So it's like trying to book. Yeah. That's what it is.
No paying people.
Exactly. It's like, man, because everyone is like, well, can you cut this rate for studio time? Or people would book studio time and not show up. And I'm like, this sucks because this is my livelihood. Like I was passionate about music and the industry and helping artists, but I couldn't sustain that because my target customer was a broke target audience, unfortunately. And I've been there as well. I've been an artist as well, so I know how it goes. So needless to say, that business didn't pan out. Had to jump back
Mhm.
into the corporate world. Went back, got my MBA, and then worked at some marketing agencies, and then kind of had this dream to also start my own marketing consulting company, which is what I do now. I've been running it for 10 years, Ampla Marketing. And that also came at a situation where lost a job, and it gave me an opportunity to really go full in on my own business. So I've been doing that. So with my company, it's digital marketing consulting. I work with small, medium-sized businesses and nonprofits with things like just digital marketing strategy planning and execution of email, uh, Facebook ads, Google ads, and just whatever they need from a digital perspective. Like I can do it all in-house or tag in some freelancers here and there.
Cool. Good stuff, man. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember when we were first starting to chat with one another, I wanted
Hmm.
you to talk about this specifically about your music journey. I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people can relate to this, and you gave it
Hmm.
your shot, and it wasn't good for you. So, talk about what that was like, and then the
Yeah.
moment you realized, all right, we're gonna move on, we're gonna pivot, and in the entrepreneurial term, we're gonna pivot here.
Yeah. Well, I think being in the music industry, or if you were in a band in high school or college, like there's entrepreneurship about that definitely, because you're making no money, but the goal is to make money. So it's like you have to perform and get people to know you and record an album or demo and get people to either purchase your album at shows or online or get a label to sign you. So you are an entrepreneur just by being a musician. For me, I started in Oklahoma. It was a friend of mine. We had a rap group, believe it or not. But Oklahoma is not really a hotbed for the kind of music we made. So it was either New York, Atlanta, or LA. And at the time, New York is a little too cold. Being from Oklahoma, LA was a little too Hollywood. So we came down to Atlanta, and I have an aunt down here that let us crash with her for a summer, and we just went hard, man. We were performing any and everywhere that we could. Ended up like winning like our first talent show that we auditioned to be in, and it was put on by a big radio station. So we're like, we're gonna stay. You know, there wasn't this opportunity in Oklahoma, so we're gonna go where there's opportunity. So worked my full-time job, did music, jumped back in school to finish undergrad. So it was like one of this phase of life where I was working, where I was sleeping maybe like 4 hours a night for probably 3 or 4 years, because it was all a hustle. You know, it's like I had goals with education, goals with music, and I had to keep money coming in with the job. But doing that, man, really grinding it out. And it got to a point where the pivot occurred in my late 20s, where going really hard with music, seeing some small successes, but not really the successes that, you know, we really moved to Atlanta to accomplish. And also being in the industry, being around the industry and so close to the industry, seeing a lot of the negative aspects of the industry, and it really turned me off from the business part of it. It's like I really want to make music. I want the world to hear the music and, you know, sing my songs, but I don't want to deal with this business because it's ugly, it's shady, it's everything they tell you that it is. And at the time, I had a son, still have a son. It's not like I don't have a son anymore, but you know, he was newer, so I'm like, my role is now dad, and he's the most important thing to me. Got into a relationship with who's my now wife, and her daughters. They're the most important thing. So it's like my priorities shifted, and it's like I love music, but I don't love the industry. So now it's time to figure out what to do next.
No, I love your story. I feel like so many
Yeah,
people
thanks.
can relate to that. That's like the picturesque movie version of the United States, like a young group trying to be up and coming and try and make it in the industry, and it's tough, and you recognize that
Yeah,
first. And a lot of
yeah.
times people would reconcile that with, okay, Jeremy and his what was your band, by the way? What'd you guys call yourselves?
Now the group was Below the Surface, and we're
Below
on
the
iTunes, we're on
Surface.
Shopify, not Shopify, Spotify. Yeah, we still got music out there. Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I'm glad you're on Shopify, man. I'll go listen on
yeah. I'm
Shopify.
not on Shopify. Yeah,
So yeah, all right, below the surface. So yeah, I
yep,
gotta go check that one out. But
yeah,
you and your team, below the surface, you guys went for a
yeah,
dream. You recognize it was
yeah.
very difficult. What I appreciate about your story is so many times we think and like you picture like every adult is probably looking at you. Your aunt, as you guys are coming home late in the morning, it's probably 2 or
Hmm.
3 a.m. when you're getting back from some of these gigs. She probably just
Yeah,
thinking, oh my gosh, these guys aren't going to do anything. And the
yeah.
sad reality is, in industries like that, it is so hard to make it.
Oh yeah.
What I appreciate
Hmm.
about your story is you took the lessons you learned from the music industry and the hardships you faced, and you applied it into other areas of your life. And so I
Yes,
wouldn't consider that
100%.
failure by any means. And if it was a
Hmm.
failure, it was something you learned off of. And that's what failure should be. I feel like so many times people are so afraid to fail that they don't put
Yeah.
themselves out there. So many people would have loved to have that experience of getting 4 hours of sleep, getting up there and performing every night and just having a good time.
Yeah.
You
Hmm.
lived that with your group. You guys lived it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What lessons
Yeah.
did you learn while doing it, while
Yeah.
performing, that converted to what you are and who you are today?
Yeah, every single thing. It's like I have zero regrets about any of it because what I like to say too is like I followed my dream and found my purpose,
Mm.
because this was my dream. Like I left everything that I knew. I'm born and raised in Oklahoma and I left everything I knew. Um, but the things that I learned are still the things that I do now. One, how to manage a business because you had to manage a group, and with balancing everything, not just the group responsibilities, but work and everything else, school, just how to balance many things at once. And also like writing, producing, like we did all that ourselves. We didn't work with outside producers. So there's technical aspects. There's just creating music out of thin air. So it's the same. It's an orchestration of different pieces of non-existent things, we'll call them, and putting it together and making something tangible that connects with an end consumer. And that's still what I do with music or speaking. It's like working with a client, it's orchestrating what your message will be and how we're going to use social media and email and ads and everything to put a product and connect you with your end consumer. So everything that I went through, the discipline, the structure, creating a plan, executing a plan, it's the same exact thing that I was doing then, only I'm actually making money off of it now,
Yep.
which is pretty nice.
So, with those life lessons you learned, and obviously you apply it into your marketing agency today,
Hmm.
there's so many instances where young entrepreneurs, the majority of the audience here on the Get Over Yourself podcast, they go through a failure. They go through a
Yeah.
period in their business where it absolutely tanks. Maybe the direction they were heading didn't work out. Their ideal
Hmm.
customer wasn't who they actually thought it was. Their software didn't work. Their service wasn't
Yeah.
as good as they were hoping. Their
Hmm.
manufacturer didn't make the product correctly. And now they have a bunch of just crappy products sitting around in the warehouse. There's these moments in a business, and especially in an entrepreneur's head, where they think, what did I get myself into? Can
Yeah.
you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah. I want to talk about the title of your podcast, Get Over Yourself, because I do think it's relevant to two ends of the spectrum. One is like when you're having success and you think, "Hey, this is great." It's like you got to get over yourself, like bring it back down and recognize there's still work to do. Then the other piece speaks to what you just talked about. Like if you have experienced failure and it didn't go how you thought it was going to be, it's like get over yourself with like the pity party, whatever. Like pick yourself back up. And but I do think it is necessary though that whatever your goal was, if you don't hit that, if you do have a failed business, like you do need some space to kind of grieve that and exhale and let it go because that is a loss for you personally. Loss is not only a job loss or if you lose someone close to you that you love, like you had this business that was a hope or dream for you. And when that dissipates, there is a loss there. So I think it's okay to grieve it, but to get over yourself is like there's still work to do. You're still here. You still matter. You still have a voice and you're still on this earth. So there's still time. So for me, I had a loss. Like my first business flopped and I love what I did. Like I'll never, probably in my life, never work with so many passionate people. Like you get a group of musicians in a room. Like I've never been in a room with more passionate people who care about what they do. And that's a really hard environment to duplicate. But getting over that and be like, man, I really love that, connecting with different people, creating art together, and I will probably not have that again. So grieving that piece, but it's like, what did I learn from this? What worked? What didn't work? What would I do different? And that's what helped me out is like, okay, I'm still here. Like my life was not taken as a result. I went through some financial hardships, went through uncertainty of where I'm going next, but I'm still here. And it's just waking up every single day, like trying to refocus. What's the next thing that I move on to? And sometimes it takes time, but you're going to land on whatever that is. And you just got to keep going, keep trying things, and keep moving forward.
I love it. Thanks for the plug for the podcast too. Yeah, when you're
For
in those
sure.
highs, you need to learn to get over yourself, humble yourself a
Mhm.
little bit, and
Yeah.
recognize, all right, I wasn't here all the time, and there's still people above me, and I still got work to do.
Right.
And when you're in
Yeah.
the low of the lows, recognize, hey, other people have been in this low spot. Other people know what I've been through. Maybe not the
Yeah.
exact same, but I can
Hmm.
get through it. I can get over myself and keep going. Let's
Yeah.
talk a little bit about those financial hardships back in the earlier days when
Yeah.
You guys, I've seen that commercial. Maybe you've seen this one. It's that Taco Bell commercial where
Mhm.
it was an old band, and they were like, Taco Bell fueled us. Their dollar menu like was all we could
Mhm.
afford back in the day, and that's what
Wow.
I'm picturing your stereotypical
Yeah.
band. You could tell me if
Yeah.
that's accurate, but yeah,
I
you're
have
working
not
with
seen
your
that, but
job
that
during
sounds
the
like an
band.
amazing commercial. Sorry.
No, it's accurate, hopefully, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
What was it like back then when, financial uncertainty was there? And so you went from a career
Yeah.
where very hard industry in the music industry,
Mhm.
didn't
Mhm.
necessarily make it, and then you chose
Mhm.
to be an entrepreneur where you still didn't have any guaranteed income.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would say like all of this, I try to be as smart as I could about it. So even when I was doing music, I had a full-time job, as long as I could keep one. And my job was, I was never fired from a job for performance or anything like that. Like I've lost jobs in the past because of the company experience, financial loss or whatever. But I always had like a plan in place. I was never just going to be like, I'm only doing music and nothing else because that's not realistic because you have to live and it costs money to live. You have to pay rent, you have to have groceries and things like that. Really, my when I was doing music, I didn't have a lot of financial hardships then because I had a full-time job. However, when I started Ampla, my company now, it came as a result of a job loss, but I also was not like, I have no money coming in, I'm only going to do Ampla because I have responsibilities, I have a family. So it's like I'm going to look for another job and I'm going to work a job while I'm bringing my company up to speed. And at some
Mm,
point, the hope is that the scales will tip and I'll be able to only do my job full time. And that's how it worked out for me. Sometimes it doesn't work out for people like that and they can never get that other side job into a full time situation for them. But with the financial, like experiencing a job loss during like the Great Recession, where I went months without a job, like was really hard. So to a point where it's like I had to file bankruptcy at one point, like many years ago, because just the money wasn't there. So, but I'm always going to be like, I have to be smart about what I do, especially when people are depending on me. At the end of the day, what I knew about me was that I'm either going to make it or I'm going to have some place to land. I have a reasonably sized family. If I need to crash with my parents, my siblings, a good friend, like I've got some place that I can go until I get back up to speed. Now, I've never had to exercise that, but I knew having some kind of a safety net, like I never wanted to inconvenience somebody else and put anyone in a situation where they'd have to take me in. And I never got to that point, thank goodness. But I also have to look at my life and like I'm really blessed to have that because not everybody has that kind of system in place. So what do
yeah.
those people do in that respect? So my financial hardships, though, were difficult for me and were a challenge for me. Like it's not the worst compared to some people. So I'm just very grateful for that struggle. What it does do is it helps me to really honor what my journey's been and the success I have now. Like when I think about where I am now versus those times, like I can really get emotional and like the tears will glisten in the eyes. So I'm very grateful for where I am.
And you practicing gratitude in that moment of where you
Hmm.
were from where you're at today, that's what makes you a great person. So many
Yeah,
people
thank you.
get to that point and say they look at it as a negative and say, "Oh gosh, I just wanna go all in on my dream. I don't wanna work another
Hmm.
job. Why isn't life just handed to me so I could just focus on just this passion?"
Yeah.
And like you said, that's not the reality most of the time. Unless you got
Mm-mm.
parents who, gave you a lofty, lofty trust fund, you gotta work for it, man. And so
Yeah.
you recognizing that that was an experience that boosted you and made you a better person rather than bring you down is amazing.
Hmm.
So that practice of gratitude is out there. So
Yeah.
how have you gone on to continue your marketing agency today? Obviously, you're in a way better place. You have an awesome
Hmm.
family life. Like, tell us a
Hmm.
little bit about how you balance the two with the work and what it's like been creating your own marketing agency.
Yeah, it's really creating boundaries. Like I'm not working 60 hours a week. That period of my life where I was working or sleeping 4 hours a week because the hustle was there and I really had to because of this dream that I was going after, that phase has passed. And it doesn't mean I'm not continuing to go after it because I am the kind of person, regardless of where I am, I feel like I need to be doing something else. It's hard for me to relax and be easy. Like I do take a vacation, but I'm not working 60 hours a week. I'm not getting just 4 hours of sleep. Like there's more balance now. And even just being available for my family, it's like that's when you look at really what's important, like my family's everything to me. Like I love my business, I'm passionate about it, my business. I love the work that I do. Even speaking, which I feel is more my purpose, is being like that messenger of hope. Like that's what fills me up. But when I look at like what keeps me going, like how do I create stability within my business? It's just knowing what you're going to say yes to and what you're going to say no to. I'm not going to work 60 hours a week because I work for myself and I have a small team. Like work-life balance is really important. I've been in agencies where they, work you to death, and that's not the environment that I create for myself or anyone that works for me.
That makes sense. Do you have any regrets about leaving the music industry behind?
I don't. That was one of those pieces where I definitely had to grieve that piece because from the time I was like 15 years old, like writing rhymes, like I knew what my life was going to look like. I'm going to grow up, I'll be in my 20s, go after a record deal, tour the world. In my 30s, fall back on a record label and put out other artists. And that was going to be my life. So when it didn't pan out that way, my whole focus and everything was on music industry. So really having to just grieve it, but also recognize the reasons that I walked away from it. And I wasn't forced out. I chose to jump in, I chose to jump out, which is a little bit different. And coming to terms with, yes, there's a talent there, but it's not my purpose. And there's many aspects about music that I like, but the music industry, no. And now with technology, I can create music and be like 90 years old if I want to, and just put out music. So
Okay.
it's more a creative outlet, and I don't do any music anymore. It's not to say that I won't in the future. Like I still have my microphone. That's like the one thing for my studio I didn't get rid of. Like I'm gonna keep this mic. Um, but yeah, I don't really like. We did everything that we could. So I didn't leave, like, as they say now, I left no crumbs. I did everything that I could and didn't get the success I wanted. We had some successes. We performed it at Showtime at the Apollo in Harlem on national TV. We had a song playing on the radio in Oklahoma of a station I grew up listening to. So there were these little successes here and there. And I'm like, as I look back, would I have done anything different to try to do more? Absolutely not. I did everything. And just knowing that, like, there's so much peace about that period of my life.
Nice. Okay, as we're kind of wrapping up on today's episode, I want to hear what's one piece of advice you would share to all the business owners out there listening to today?
One piece of advice would be really knowing what your purpose is. And I know that sounds very generic or altruistic, but really when you know who you are and who your purpose is, like it helps to drive your personal life and your business life. You'll have more fulfillment from your business life because hopefully your business somehow connects with that. For me, when I went on this mission of really tapping into my purpose, and that's what I wrote my book about, it helped me gain clarity on choices that I make in my life. And with my business, there's certain clients that I don't work with because it doesn't align with where I'm going and who I want to be. And you can, without doing that kind of work, there's a risk that you're going to be miserable being an entrepreneur. And if you're miserable being an entrepreneur, then it's not really worth it. You can work for somebody else and be miserable. So find out what it is about you that's going to bring that joy to you and really fill you up, and bake that into your culture of your company and bake it into how you make decisions for your business and for your life.
Heck yeah. I appreciate that, Jeremy. If we all
Yeah.
try and find our purpose, it makes our direction in life, both in our personal life as well as our business life, a little bit easier. It's one of those moments
Yes.
where you need to take a step back and you say, okay, I got a million things going on inside of my life right now, but I'm going to take
Mhm.
a few minutes just to sit back and think, okay, is this direction I'm going? Is the next step I'm going to take in my business, or the next step I'm going to take in my social or my spiritual or my physical life? Is this next step actually going to propel me to my overall purpose, my overall goal in
Mhm.
life? So take the time to
Yeah.
actually appreciate that. Well,
Yeah.
Jeremy, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for joining us here on the Get Over Yourself podcast today. Where can people find you if they want to go read your new book that came out? And yeah, give us a little plug on
Sure.
that too. We haven't even heard about that.
Yeah, man. My book is called Finding Your Edge: How to Unlock Your Talent and Purpose. It's available on Amazon, Audible, Kindle, Apple Books. So I did record the audiobook in my voice. So if you like my voice, listen to it. If you don't like my voice, read the book. So either way, I try to give you what you need, how you need it. You can find me on Instagram, jeremy.haselwood. That's HASELWOOD. Also, jeremyhazelwood.com. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, especially if you need help with marketing or want me to come speak. So those are the best ways to reach out to me.
Okay, guys, make sure to go check out that new book. It will be available on all the different platforms you just mentioned, including Amazon, right, Jeremy?
Yes. Yep.
Perfect. That's the easiest one. A couple days shipping, guys,
Yeah.
and you can have a stick in your hand. So
Exactly.
make sure to go
Yep.
check that out. Jeremy, pleasure to have you on the episode. Everyone who listened to today, if you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to share it with somebody who you feel could benefit from hearing today's words, whether that be a family member, a coworker, your priest at your local church congregation, anyone who would benefit from hearing Jeremy's story. Make sure to share it with them and go check out Jeremy on his website, online, anything like that, as well as check out his new book. And guys, with that all being said, I appreciate you and we'll see you next time.